Hi, these two videos are going to demonstrate the psychological flexibility point of view. Now, the psychological flexibility point of view is not something that you would be talking about. It would be something that you would be experiencing. So with your permission, I will show you the point of view. I will begin by drawing a circle in the middle of my board, and I'm going to write the word me. That would be myself or you, any one of us who are looking at the board. We are all me's, and we are born into the world and begin to experience the world from the moment of our birth through our five senses: see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. And we just call that simply our five senses experiencing. So everything that we learn, we take in through our five senses, comes down into the me, and it shows up inside of us later on as, like a millisecond or two later, mental experiencing. And we're going to experience that right now. So what I'd like you to do is to take out an object, maybe a pen, something like that, and I want you to take the object and hold it in your hand and experience it through your five senses. So, for example, you would see the pen, you would feel the pen, you might make a sound with the pen, you might click it, you might smell the pen. Now, I don't recommend that you go and taste the pen. If you have some food, you could probably try that. Otherwise, you've done your five senses experiencing. So now put the pen down so it's not in contact with you, and close your eyes. And now what I want you to do is I want you to, in your mind, experience that object or that pen through your mental experiencing. So in your mind, you will see it, you will hear it, you will touch it, you will smell it, and now in your mind, you can go ahead and taste it all you want. Now, you may or may not be noticing that there is a difference between your five senses experiencing of that object or that pen and your mental experiencing of that pen. And if you didn't notice that, that's okay too, because you then just noticed right now that you didn't notice a difference. That's fine. So the other thing we want to be looking at is that everything that we do in our lives is we're doing things to move toward who or what is important to us, or we're doing things to move away from uncomfortable internal experiences like, for example, fear. So now recall a time in your life when you moved towards someone or something that was important, and recall how that experience felt to you. Now, recall a time in your life where something like fear or some other uncomfortable feeling or experience showed up inside of you, and recall how that felt. Now, you may or may not be able to notice that there's a difference between how your toward moves, toward who and what's important to you, felt versus your away from what you don't want. Now we're ready to go ahead and ask a couple of questions. So, the first question that I ask everybody is, who is important to you? And as I write that down, you may notice that what shows up inside of you, for example, might be, well, my family is important to me. Or some of you may say, my friends are important to me. That's fine. We're just going to notice that. And now I'm also going to ask you, what is important to you? Now here, you might say something like, well, school is important to me, or my education. Or perhaps having fun is important. Or maybe my career is important to me. Or, just being a citizen of the earth. And as we notice that, we can also notice how it feels when we are moving toward our important people or things. And probably you're going to say something like it feels good or satisfying, etc. Now, at the same time, you may also notice that as we begin to move toward important people or things, stuff shows up inside of us that we don't want, like fear. So the idea might be that fear would show up inside of us, like if we stepped out off of a curb onto a busy street and we weren't paying attention and a car quickly zoomed in and we kind of saw it at the last minute, and this thing called fear show up inside of us, and we did something to get away from that fear. and it worked very well to keep us alive and safe. And that's kind of what fear is designed to do. It's built into us to help us get out of bad situations. But it can also show up inside of us sometimes and get in the way of moving toward who and what's important to us. So my next question would be something like, what shows up inside of you on the inside and gets in the way of moving toward who and what's important to you? And, an answer might be something like, well, this thing called anger might show up inside. Or this stuff that is called sad might show up inside and kind of be sticky and uncomfortable. Or there is also frustration, which shows up in a lot of people, including myself. And we can notice that. And then we will also be asking the question up here, which is, what do you do when this stuff shows up to try to get away from it? And we may hear things like, well, I will yell to get away from my anger. Or perhaps some people might cry to control or get away from sadness. And some people may, when frustration shows up, they may just stop doing whatever it is that they're doing. So we can notice all of that too. At the same time, we're going to slide over here, and the last question I ask is, what do you want to be able to do to keep moving toward who or what's important to you? So, to move toward your family, somebody might tell me, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to my family, talk to my dad or my mom. To move toward friends, we might go out and get together and go to a restaurant and eat. Now, something we might be able to do with both family and friends is we could give a hug or we could get a hug. Now, to move toward stuff called like school, you're going to do something basically like go to class or take a test or read a book. To move toward fun, you might play a game. So I'll put that up there. To move toward the career stuff, you may do some research. Say you're researching, or you might even just go to work to move toward your career. And to be a good citizen, well, heck, there's lots of stuff. Let's just say we're going to help out. You might want to clean the park. So, when we get done with all of this, I will ask the question, who is the one who is noticing all of this right now? Now, of course, that would be, again, you or me in the middle here, noticing all of this. Noticing who is important to me or what's important to me. Noticing what kind of stuff might show up that shows up on the inside that gets in the way. Noticing some of the things that I might do or you might do to move away from this uncomfortable stuff. And also noticing the kinds of things we want to be able to do to keep moving toward who and what's important to us. Now, this whole thing, we put it all together, is called the psychological flexibility point of view. I'm going to write that right up here. Psychological flexibility and point of view. And the idea here is the more psychologically flexible we are in noticing all of this, the better we're able to kind of keep doing the stuff that's important to us. Now, in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about how this whole thing got started and maybe some other things that you could be using it for. Thanks a lot.